Hey everyone, and welcome to the Theater of Pain M+ guide for Warlocks. This dungeon has seen some significant changes since Shadowlands, so let's take a look at what you'll be facing. Challengers have been completely redesigned. Each of the three bosses has their own ultimate ability, which they cast upon reaching 100 energy. Desia is mostly handled by the tank, with the only major concern being Mighty Smash, a strong party-wide AoE that she'll unleash once her energy bar is full. As long as you're prepared and pop a defensive, she shouldn't pose too much trouble. Passerion, the second boss, casts a frontal cone attack that needs to be dodged. His ultimate ability, Noxious Spores, is a targeted ground effect that spawns a plague zone underneath each player. These zones linger for 2.5 minutes, so positioning them properly is crucial, especially on hierarchies where poor placement can quickly leave you without room to move. Stack with others when the ability is about to land, and then spread out, keeping the zones in a controlled area. Sathel, the third boss, frequently casts Deathbolt, which can be mitigated with Curse of Tongues and proper interrupt rotation. He also applies Withering Touch, a dispellable dot. Depending on your group composition, you may want to bring a Fell Hunter for extra interrupts, or an Imp to help dispel Withering Touch from yourself or a squishier teammate. When Sathel's energy fills, he casts Searing Death on random players, causing ticking damage to them and anyone nearby. Since the bosses don't share health, killing one will cause the remaining two to gain 10% increased damage and an additional 35 energy, which can create dangerous ability overlaps. In Shadowlands, Gorechop was a nightmare for turret casters like Warlock, and unfortunately that hasn't changed much this season. The main ability to watch out for is Meat Hooks, which serves as the foundation for all Gorechop's other abilities. Periodically, he will summon a curtain of hooks that sweep across the room. Getting caught will result in a stun and a nasty bleed. There will always be two openings in the curtain that you can use to dodge safely. However, as a Warlock, you can completely bypass this mechanic with a well-placed demonic circle. Immediately after casting Meat Hooks, Gorechop will pull all players toward him. Standing close to the boss before the pull ensures you aren't dragged across the room, which helps maintain your positioning and uptime. Once the hook curtain drops, it spawns two oozing leftovers. These adds will jump around the room, dealing damage to any player within 4 yards of their target. While they do lose 3% of their health every second, you'll still want to cleave them down quickly. When they die, they leave ooze pools which deal damage and slow you down. Xav remains largely unchanged from his debut in Shadowlands. His primary mechanic is still Blood and Glory, where upon reaching 100 energy, he throws 2 DPS players into the arena to duel. The winner gains a 10% damage increase, while the loser gets a 10% damage reduction for 20 seconds. If neither players win after some time, they both receive the damage reduction. Since this buff and debuff are fairly insignificant, as a Warlock your best strategy is to lose quickly using Burning Rush. The longer you're out of the game, the more pressure Xav's other abilities put on the rest of your team. One of the more dangerous abilities is Oppressive Banner, which applies a stacking slow while it remains active. Killing it should be a top priority, as the movement debuff can make it difficult to avoid Xav's other attacks. When the boss casts Might of the Maldraxxus, he jumps to the center of the room and deals party-wide AoE damage. After this, he will unleash a deadly 3-part attack. Crushing Slam deals damage in a circular pattern and in a straight line in front of him. Deafening Crash interrupts all spellcasting for 2 seconds and will likely kill you if you stand in its impact zone. And Massive Cleave engulfs half of the room, dealing heavy damage to anyone caught in it. Kul'tharok has undergone the most changes, with his entire kit being reworked. The main change you'll notice if you fought him in Shadowlands is the addition of Death Spiral. This mechanic spawns several orbs that circle the room, dealing massive damage if touched. Another key ability is Draw Souls, which applies a ticking dot to all players and spawns lost souls that move towards the boss. If they reach him, they explode, dealing heavy AoE damage. It's important to focus them down before they can get close. Kul'tharok will also cast Well of Darkness on random players, causing them to take AoE damage and deal it to anyone nearby. The boss will periodically cast a beam at his main target, so be sure to avoid standing behind the tank. Finally, he will cast Necrotic Bolt, which becomes more dangerous at higher keys. The last encounter in the dungeon, Mordretha hasn't received any changes. You'll still need to dodge her Dark Devastation, a beam she rotates either to the right or left. She will also summon a Grasping Rift, which will attempt to pull players in. If you get caught in its zone of influence, you will be afflicted with a nasty ticking curse. Mordretha will also apply Manifest Death to the entire party. Once it expires, it will spawn a Deathwalker, which casts an interruptible Death Bolt. If you don't have someone in your party who can handle these adds single-handedly, be sure to interrupt the Deathwalker you spawn. However, do not slow or stun it, as you want it to move towards the tank for easier cleaving. Upon reaching 50% health, Mordretha will cast Echoes of Carnage, dealing a large amount of damage immediately and then ticking damage for the remainder of the fight. Once Echoes of Carnage is active, Mordretha will alternate between summoning ghostly combatants that deal huge damage to anyone near them, and ghostly riders that charge across the room, trampling anyone in their path. Unlike bosses, trash mobs remained mostly unchanged. Before engaging the first boss, you'll encounter a small pack of several mobs. Your main priority is to handle Battlefield Ritualist, who casts Necrotic Bolt, as well as Unholy Fervor, which applies on-hit healing buff to his allies. If this goes off, you can dispel it with your Fellhunter. Also keep an eye out for Raging Bloodhorn's Raging Tantrum, during which you should use a defensive.
In the area before Gorechop, you'll face a variety of different mobs. The most dangerous among them are Blighted Sludge Spewers. They cast Decaying Blight, afflicting random targets with a total HP reducing dot. The more dangerous cast they do is Withering Discharge. This must be interrupted, as failing to do so results in a massive party-wide damage and afflicts everyone with a devastating disease dot that reduces damage and healing done by 10%. And it stacks.
Another dangerous mob, Rancid Gasbag, has a pulsing AoE aura that deals damage every 2 seconds. They also unleash a frontal and rear cone of toxic goo, so make sure to stand on their sides to avoid it. The path leading to Xav has many challenges. The ones who don't change are the skeleton crews that are always the constant. In the first one, you'll want to prioritize Arbalaster, as it deals heavy damage to a random player. In the second group, focus on the Ancient Captain first before switching to Arbalaster, since the Captain's aura empowers nearby mobs and significantly reduces their damage taken from AoE abilities. Also interrupt his Demoralizing Shout, or your party will deal even less damage. Aside from the skeleton crews, you'll also have to fight through battling champions. There are too many to list individually, but they have various combinations of AoE interrupts, dodgeable slams, strong bleeds, whirlwinds, frontal shield immunities, and super annoying spinning blades. Before engaging Kul'tharok, you'll have to traverse the most dangerous zone in the dungeon. Shackle Souls channel a slow ability. Portal Guardians apply a curse that increases all shadow damage taken by 30%, and they also cast Soulstorm, a powerful party-wide pulsing AoE. Next, you'll encounter the Maniacal Soulbinder, who casts 2 interruptible abilities, Necrotic Bolt and Necrotic Bolt Volley. Slow them both with your curse, and don't let the volley go through. Another caster, Bone Magus, uses Grave Spike, a strong single target ability that should also be interrupted. 50% of this adds HP is a shield that your Fellhunter can dispel, allowing you to take down the mob more quickly. Probably the most dangerous mob you'll encounter in this dungeon is the Nefarious Darkspeaker. This mob ruined many keys in Shadowlands and will continue to do so in this season. It casts a knockback wind that you must dodge to avoid being thrown off the platform. It also casts Curse of Desolation, which places fear circles on the ground, along with an interruptible single target spell. To counter the knockback, place a demonic circle preemptively so you have a backup plan in case you get hit. Lastly, depending on your route, you might encounter Bone Reaver. It spawns a series of dodgeable ground spikes and casts Bone Storm while following the highest threat target, so avoid being near the tank. And that's all you need to know about Theater of Pain, which is now much less painful than it was during Shadowlands. If you found this guide helpful, please hit that like and subscribe button, as it means so much to me. You can also watch me live on Twitch, where I stream almost every day. Remember to Soulstone, and good luck!